The Sinkhole tragedy, the death of Yuri Lipsky on April 28, 2000. 22-year-old Russian diving instructor Yuri Lipsky arrived at the Blue Hole in Dahab, Egypt. The water was calm, the sun was bright, and Yuri was excited. He had come here to break his personal depth record and to film the entire dive. Before descending, he attached a red filter to his camera. He checked his gear, adjusted his single tank, and ignored the warnings of a veteran diver named Tarek Omar. Tarek tried to stop him, but Yuri believed he knew what he was doing. He began descending. At first, everything looked fine. The sunlight still reached him. His breathing was steady, but as the minutes passed, the light began to fade. 4 minutes into the dive, the world around him turned dark. Completely dark. At 5.5 minutes, he lifted his dive computer toward the camera. It read 266 feet. Moments later, he reached a sloped sandy bottom, a depth of 301 feet. Realizing he had gone too deep, Yuri attempted to inflate his buoyancy compensator, but nothing happened. He pressed again and again. The audio captured his frantic effort, but his BCD remained unresponsive. Panicking, he dropped his camera on the sand, trying to free both hands. His breathing grew louder. His alarm kept beeping. At 300 feet, he was consuming air 11 times faster than normal. With only one tank, it was impossible to survive long. Nitrogen narcosis had already clouded his mind. He couldn't think clearly, couldn't act logically. Within moments, everything went silent. A week later, diver Tarek Omar descended into the Blue Hole and recovered Yuri's body and his camera. Inside were the final 7 minutes of his life, recorded in haunting detail. The Plura Cave disaster, Norway. On February 6, 2014, 5 skilled Finnish divers arrived in northern Norway for a long-awaited cave diving expedition inside the Plura Cave system, a cold, silent world beneath mountains of limestone. The water temperature was below freezing. The divers had to cut a hole in half-meter-thick ice just to enter the pool. Their plan was bold. They would enter one end of the cave system underwater and emerge miles away inside a dry cave hidden high in the mountains. The deepest point of the dive reached an astonishing 433 feet. The first team, Patrick and Yuri Watari, went in. After an hour, they reached the maximum depth and started their long ascent. They had nearly 2 hours of decompression stops ahead, but then disaster struck. Yuri Watari became wedged in a tight, narrow tunnel, one of the most dangerous parts of the entire route. At deep depths, fear turns deadly. Stress increases carbon dioxide in the body, and CO is far more deadly than running out of air. Patrick watched his dive computer jump from 120 minutes of decompression time to 400 minutes. His breathing became rapid. His body was shutting down after 7 hours underwater. He knew he could not stay any longer. With no way to help his friend and the second team already following behind, Patrick was forced to swim past Jerry's body and head for the surface. He made it out alone, exhausted, freezing, and terrified, knowing something terrible had happened behind him. Hours later, the second group reached the same fatal bottleneck. Yuri Lipsky panicked after seeing Huotari's body. His breathing spiraled out of control. Despite attempts to calm him, he died within moments. Another diver, Vesa, became trapped, struggling with Jerry's body. Kai, the last diver, realized he had only enough gas to save himself or die trying to save his friend. In the darkest moment of his life, he made the painful choice to turn back. After 12 hours underwater, Kai surfaced through the ice, freezing and broken, believing all his friends were gone. 2 divers survived. 2 never returned. The Eagle's Nest Incident, Florida, on October 15, 2016. 3 highly trained cave divers arrived at Eagle's Nest in west-central Florida, a peaceful pond that hides a vast underwater cavern plunging hundreds of feet deep. Chris Rittenmeyer and Patrick Peacock were elite divers, equipped with rebreathers, trimix gases, scooters, and multiple backup tanks. The day before, they had carefully staged emergency gas reserves throughout the cave, doing everything exactly as professionals should. They entered the water at 2 p.m. They were supposed to check in with their friend Justin at 3 p.m. As they reached their decompression stops, they never arrived. Justin waited and waited. By 6 p.m., he notified authorities. Search teams scoured the cave through the night. They checked upstream, nothing. They checked downstream, still nothing. Then, at 3:45 a.m., another team found both men near an area called the pit. Their gear worked, their tanks were intact, their rebreathers were operational. No one knows what went wrong. In a cave where even the best divers can make mistakes, Chris Ritten and Patrick Peacock died at a depth of 260 feet, leaving a mystery the underwater world still cannot explain. The Bali diving tragedy. Our final story begins on February 14, 2014, when 7 Japanese women, 5 tourists, and 2 instructors set out for a routine dive near the island of Nusa Lembongan in Bali. It was supposed to be a fun day underwater. The weather looked perfect. The sea was calm. But 20 minutes into their dive, a storm came out of nowhere. Waves rose quickly. Visibility vanished. Their captain moved the boat away, then left entirely to buy fuel. By the time he returned, the women had disappeared. Swept by violent currents, the 7 divers drifted for miles, tossed by waves, dehydrated under the burning sun. their bodies growing weaker by the hour. On the first day, they had no drinking water. On the second day, rain finally came, and they held their mouths open to survive. On the third day, they were barely conscious. On February 17th, fishermen discovered 4 of the women clinging to a coral reef, 12 miles from their starting point. A 5th diver was rescued by helicopter, but 2 were still missing. The next day, the body of 59-year-old Retsuko Miura was found floating near a beach in South Bali. 1 month later, Shoko Takahashi, a 29-year-old instructor, washed ashore on an island 250 miles away, carried by ocean currents for weeks. The boat captain was arrested for negligence. 5 survived. 2 lost their lives. The ocean is beautiful, but it is unforgiving. Even the most trained, most experienced divers can be overwhelmed by its power. These stories remind us that underwater exploration demands respect, caution, and humility. If you want to hear more real-life stories from around the world, make sure to subscribe and let me know what story you want next.